So I wanted to come in here today and make a video for fearful avoidant attachment styles who are in the process of learning a little bit more about themselves and are really just wanting to expand like what they can take accountability for and take action around and heal and grow through, because the more we take personal responsibility for our lives and our healing journey, it sort of goes back to this idea that things are not our fault that happened growing up, but they are our responsibility. And so, when we decide, okay, you know what, even if I've been through a lot of hard things in the past, even if I've gone through a lot of trauma or chaos or whatever it might have been, because I know fearful avoidants tend to go through a lot of really unique and, often quite, tumultuous experiences in their upbringing, you know, being able to take a look at some of those things and say, even though that happened to me, I'm no longer going to let that determine my present and my future. And I'm no longer going to allow that to determine how I show up in relationships and what I think relationships can be, and also determine my happiness and how I want to feel on a daily in my daily life. And really the difference between like reacting to our life circumstances versus choosing to lead our life, right? Choosing to take over who we want to become and what kind of life we want to create for ourselves. And this idea between, not just, passively reacting to our life circumstances, but actually choosing to initiate what we want to see. So, if this sounds like you, this is a really good, specific, unique place for growth today. And it really has a lot to do with this idea that fearful avoidance may justify their reactions a lot. So, in this video, I'm going to take you through, we're going to explore what that means, where it comes from, why, and what you can do instead. So, this is a big lesson for a lot of fearful avoidance as a general rule. And some of you listening might have already learned this and sort of figured this out. But this tends to be something that, affects about 80-90% of fearful avoidance, if I had to put a guess around the number. And it's that fearful avoidance, because they go through more trauma as a general rule, than other attachment styles. They tend to have this pattern where, in the moment that somebody hurts them, they feel like all bets are off at a subconscious level, and they justify in a way, how they choose to react to somebody hurting them. And fearful avoidants tend to have this pattern of thinking where it's almost like, as long as I didn't cause it, I can react however I want to it. So let me give you an example. I was a fearful avoidant. And prior to doing a lot of work, so the last serious relationship I was in before the one I'm in right now, which I've been in for many, many years. So I want to say this is like 12 years ago, maybe 13. I don't know, a long time ago. What year are we in? So, a long time ago, when I was still like having all my fearful avoidance stuff and I hadn't done a lot of deep inner work on myself, when somebody would hurt me in that relationship, directly or indirectly, big or small, do something that offended me, whatever it is, I always had this idea in my mind that because I wasn't the one, I was the one being hurt by that person, I was on the receiving end, that I could basically do or say in my reaction whatever I wanted, and it was justified because you hurt me. And this would look like, getting overly angry, being really harsh with my words back, saying mean things in response, really blaming instead of trying to like empathize with somebody and see like what they were, what led up to them doing that. And what this really reflected for me at the time, quite honestly, was, first of all, poor communication skills, because I really hadn't learned how to have tough conversations in a healthy way yet. And also a lot of deep core wounds. And so when those core wounds were pushed on, it was almost like I was so blinded by how strong my emotional reaction was. It like those core wounds were so strong that like in that intense emotion I was feeling, I couldn't see outside of my own perspective, and I couldn't see how I was impacting the other person in the way that I reacted or responded. And what this led to was a lot of like really unhealthy patterns in relationships. A lot of, or sometimes I would just shut down so hard and just be so cold and so withdrawn. And it's like, instead of, having a dialogue about what hurt me and affected me and asking for a different need or setting a boundary or whatever it might be, I would lash out. And when I look at that, it was like the funny thing is that it took me so long to even recognize that I was doing that because I always looked at it through the lens of like the person hurting me and blaming that person and being angry at the person. And because, yes, they did hurt me first, I had this like deep subconscious justification that, like, well, I can react however I want because you started it or you did it first. And the reality is, as long as we allow ourselves to continue living our lives that way, we will keep having the same outcomes, the same problems, the same challenges, the same little bouts of chaos in our lives. And the real question we have to ask ourselves is like, who do I want to be in the world? Like, how do I want to show up? How do I want to carry myself? And what kind of energy do I want to bring in and feed into my relationships? And how do I want to be accountable for like my contributions to a relationship and my contributions or the way that I show up in the world around me? And it took me a long time to honestly learn this because, like, just like with any other human being, the more pain or stress we're in, the more we like look at the outside world and blame the outside world or feel like we're the victim of the experience with the outside world. And it's like we're so busy observing the outside world and trying to protect ourselves from it that we don't sometimes have self-awareness in that moment or in that experience to be able to really show up and to be able to recognize the impact that we have in response. And I really believe that when we're like, okay, what do I actually want the outcome to be here? Or who do I want to be and show up as? Like when we ask ourselves different questions, it leads to the ability to develop different behavioral patterns. And so part of why I'm making this video today is because this was such a powerful lesson for me. And, I in hindsight, I definitely did a lot of like damage to relationships through the way I reacted to being hurt. And this is not me saying like, it's okay to get hurt and don't do anything. Absolutely not. I definitely don't believe in that either. But this is me saying, when you get hurt, even if you're really hurt and you're trying to like clearly articulate that you're hurt, yelling or like being harsh back to somebody or shutting them out and stonewalling, all of those things like are never actually getting your needs and your perspective heard and understood by the person that you're in the relationship with. It's only ever getting you into a position where it's creating more distance, more damage, and then that person and the way that you respond to them feels hurt. And guess what they do? They do what you just did. They're busy then thinking about how you hurt them. And so they don't see you. And sometimes when we do this like back and forth, we lose the ability to see each other. And that hurts. That stings because we're not supposed to feel like we lose the ability to see the people we love and vice versa. And so it's a really powerful lesson for fearful avoidance to not justify your reactions to somebody, even if have really high standards for the way that you show up and that you do relationships, and somebody then hurts you and doesn't really meet the standards that you're living by and the amount that you're pouring into other people. Have a healthy conversation. Learn to have tough conversations. Learn to communicate your needs. And in doing so, this is where we get momentum towards the types of relationships that we want to be having. And so, not only will this be something that allows you to be more seen, more known, more understood, actually gets your point across. Like, think of this for a second. Think of if somebody hurts, say somebody hurts me. And let's say they lied to me. Okay. And let's say I'm still in FA and let's pretend I still have that big, big wound around trust and it deeply affects me. Well, if I just lash out, that person just sees me as angry. They just see me as like, oh, the person lashing out. I'm on the defense now. They're angry at me. They're being mean with their words. They're raising their voice. They don't see that underneath that experience, I actually feel afraid and hurt. And so they have a hard time because they're now on the defense with my reaction coming at them. They have a hard time empathizing with me. And this is where we get into those like vicious cycles. But if instead I said, hey, you know what? I just noticed that you lied about something. Here's how I know that you lied. You know, I just want to understand why and what's going on. And can you please be transparent? Because when you lie, it hurts me. That makes me feel the need to protect myself and pull away. And I don't want to do that with you. I want to like hash it out, figure out what's going on, and figure out what the root cause is and like how we can mend this. And I also want you to know that lying is not okay for me in relationships. It's not acceptable. And if it continues, I will end up having to pull away to protect myself. And I'm not saying that as a threat. I'm saying that because I want you to know that about me and to understand that we have natural consequences for our actions towards each other. And so if I speak about it in that way, instead of you jerk, you lied, you asshole, blah, 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 you know, if I go about it that way, it I never get hurt. But if I say it the first way, and I'm open and I'm transparent and I'm calm and I'm honest and I'm also a little bit vulnerable with what I'm experiencing when that happens, we have a much greater chance of being seen and heard and understood and connected to. And I think one of the most painful things for fearful avoidance is that they tend to really pour into people around them. And then when somebody hurts them, they don't know how to communicate properly about it the vast majority of the time. And it leads them to feeling like it doesn't get resolved. And so then it builds up and it builds up. And then you don't trust more. And then people don't see you. And then you feel more alone in the relationships in your life that you're in. And so these are very, very potent and powerful lessons to learn. And they don't just impact like your relationships, they impact your happiness, right? They impact how connected you feel. They impact so many things in life. So I wanted to share that here today. If you want to do a deep dive into how to do that really quick and learn about these things much in a much faster way, let's say, you can check out the conflict communication course for free for 7 days. It's a really powerful course. You can get through it in like a sitting, and you can get the results and the tools you need to really action how to properly communicate in a structured way with 5 simple steps. And those 5 simple steps are designed to help you get started on your more vulnerable communication and start building momentum. So again, you can check it out for free for 7 days using the link down below. That will give you more than enough time to actually get through that course. And I hope this is a helpful video for you. And if you have questions, please let me know in the comments down below as well. And thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I make daily daily YouTube videos about the subconscious mind, relationships, communication, attachment theory, all kinds of stuff, specifically integrated attachment theory. And thank you so much for being here and for watching, and I'll see you in future videos.